Welcome to another episode of Everything Intellectual Property. Today, we have a very special guest with us. This person has invented the trapdoor Colander, which has been sold in many stores across the country, such as Walmart, as well as Bed Bath & Beyond. Please help me welcome the founder of Modern Chaos Designs, Lesia Farmer. How's it going, Lesia?
It's great. How's it going?
It's going pretty good. I kind of was telling you as I was coming on this thing before our pregame chat here. I was talking about the weather in Michigan, and hey, if it's some sun outside during this time of the year, then you have to take it. So I'm kind of a little bit more pumped as a result of that. I know you're in Texas, and it seems like it's always sunny and the weather is always nice. But I guess in Michigan, hey, we have to take these good days this time of year.
Yeah, we have to take these good days as well because it's 91 degrees outside.
That's crazy. I'm not sure if that's like a good thing and a bad thing, because I look at it from like it's being a good thing, but it seems like 91 degrees. I can tell that may not be good when you're experiencing it in real time.
It's a bad thing when you're here.
No, and I'll tell you, I'm excited about this one. I think we're going to be able to add a lot of value to the audience, and then just kind of really learning about your story. One of the things that I always appreciate from these interviews, because I get a chance to learn a lot, and a lot of times I'm taking notes. I got my pen, I got my paper down, because I try to learn as well, kind of as I'm kind of doing these interviews. And I guess one of the things at the beginning that I always like to try to start off with is, you kind of maybe describe your product. I'm not sure if you have one handy with you, but I do have. I can pull up your website to kind of show the product as well. There you go. Because looking back, and I have to tell you this, I didn't tell you this before, but I just always looked at these things as a strainer. I didn't realize that it was like a technical name for it, which again is part of that learning process for me. So I'm like, what is a colander? But then when I actually looked it up, I'm like, oh, this is just a strainer. I know what this thing is. I just didn't know, I guess, the technical name for it.
Right. Well, this is the trapdoor colander. And so what I've done is just taken the traditional strainer colander, and I added the trapdoors on the bottom. So everything just drops through the bottom, which makes it so much easier than trying to invert a colander, because and I'll tell you the story in a bit when we get to it on why my colander now has trapdoors on the bottom.
As I saw the product, a lot of the times it's like, okay, how has that not been thought of already? So, yeah. And that's like, okay, because it seems so obvious as you're thinking about it, because again, like you said, you strain it, you typically the noodles or the pasta or whatever is hot, and you're trying to like invert it, and now you're kind of burning yourself, and it's like a health risk at that point. So it's like, okay, nobody up until this point in time just thought of, okay, let's put some doors on it and pull it and have the pasta or whatever for a lot. That's, I don't know, I think it's ingenious, and man, kudos to you. I guess as you were going through the process, and again, we'll talk about the patents and all that, the IP part of it, did you think like, okay, there's no way that nobody has started this already? Was that like a thought process that kind of crept in your head, or you didn't even think like that? You just had that idea and you ran with it?
No, I thought like that. I had a couple of ideas before this one, so I had already learned how to kind of research a product to see if it was out there. Yeah. And so with this one, I started doing research, and after, because research is time consuming. It sounds very easy. People think, oh, I jump on Google. If it's not there, it doesn't exist. That's not true. Just because it's not on Google doesn't mean that somebody hasn't already filed for, patent rights on that technology. So you have to learn to go from Google, and then you've got to learn to search the USPTO, which all of that I had already worked on. So I had my skill set on how to do all that.
That's nice.
So yeah, after about 2 weeks, and I mean 2 weeks of solid, because I knew when I made my own prototype at home. So I knew when I made the prototype and watched it function, I knew right then exactly what I had. So I had to make sure it wasn't out there.
Like, and again, because I'm waiting for one of those moments. I'm one of these practitioners that I'm looking forward to getting into the game as far as kind of having a product, but I can't, especially for it to make sense for me. It has to be something such as this, where it's like, okay, this is something that I think is going to hit resonate with a lot of people. And I'm still waiting on that moment for me. But it seems like how was that feeling to have that moment to say, okay, I have something here, especially when you're after you did all the searching and you're like, man, this is not out there. It seems like that. Obviously, there's a lot more to go at that point, but I would imagine that initial thought, that initial moment was very exciting for you.
It was. The deeper I got into my research and the more I realized there was really nothing else out there like this, the more excited you get, because you realize that you have actually, your mind has actually come up with something that no one else has thought of. No one else has put on the market. And think about it. Strainers have been around forever.
For a long time. That's what I'm saying. It's like, how can, like, nobody thought about this? And it seems like no, and you're the I was a lucky, well, I would say lucky winner, but that is, I don't know. I just think it's still an amazing thing to think of something and not only think about it, but kind of bringing it to an existence to the point where like people are using it.
There's an interview with, I don't know if you know who Scott Evans is. I think he's on Entertainment Tonight, but he also was on America's Big Deal, which we'll cover that, of course, along in the podcast. But there's an interview with him, and he's like, it's a colander, and it opens at the bottom. Like, how has this never been thought of before? And when I was on the show, he was the same way. He was like, I just can't. Like, I can't.
I mean, because it's like from a pan perspective, and it's a pretty simple. And again, they always say keep it simple. Simple is always good. But from a pan perspective, it seems like it's a pretty straightforward application. It's it's like you said, there's some trap doors or some doors at the bottom that I'm assuming are spring loaded, and you kind of overcome that spring force to open it. But okay, got it. But it seems like the benefit is, again, kind of, I think this is a good segue into the inspiration for the product, because a lot of times people the inspiration is like they're trying to solve this real world problem that they're having for themselves, and to the extent that you guys get a chance to come up with an idea for it. The cool thing is it seems like other people are likely having that same issue that you guys are having, and for you to say, okay, I came up with a solution, and I'm not just going to kind of keep it for myself or don't do anything, but to move on it is, I don't know, I think this is a pretty amazing thing as well. But can you kind of tell the backstory of how it came to be, as far, or the inspiration behind, I guess, it's the product, and how did it come to be?
I can. Throughout the years, I wear glasses, of course. So, steam getting on my glasses every time, trying to keep it away from you, and you can't, because you're trying to empty this colander and you're trying to invert this colander, and it's steam and everything else. And I've ended up with pasta on the floor, pasta on the counter, just potatoes. Potatoes are so hot. Mm-hmm. And so the steam from potatoes. But the kicker was I filled up, my son was coming in from the military, so I made this big pan of pasta, dumped it over into a colander, and I was standing in my kitchen with flip-flops on. Mm-hmm. And so when I went to tip the colander over, which they call it invert, so when I went to turn the colander over, it had kind of gotten that film on the pasta, and it was all kind of clumped together, and I didn't realize it. Well, when it landed on my feet, I got second and third degree burns all over. Really? Yeah, absolutely. I was on my way to the ER. I am on my way to the ER because my feet are burned. They're burned bad. And I'm telling my husband on the way back, I mean, I am on fire, guys. And I'm telling him this will never happen again, because on the way back, we're stopping at the dollar store. And he's like, what are we doing? And I said, we're about to cut up some colanders. Why? And I said, because I don't know how we're going to do it out in the garage. We're about to add some trap doors on a colander.
So you had it already as you were going to the hospital. You had the idea in your head.
That's all I could think about is how to stop this. I was just thinking, there has to be a way to not have to do this anymore, or at least to be able to keep that colander away from you. at arm's length because you can do anything with my colander away from you. You don't have to, there's no more, you don't need it right up here where you can see what's going on. You know exactly what's going on. It's going right there where you want to put it. That's where it's going. So that's how the trapdoor colander came to be, because second and third degree burns on my feet, and it just hit me on the way to the ER. I mean, we were about halfway there. My feet are burning. I'm whining about how bad they hurt. And we get about halfway there, and I'm like, oh my, if you didn't have to turn it over anymore and you just could, it was there. Wheels were turning.
And that's the simple thing. It's like, okay, well, obviously we have all these holes and it's perforated so that we can get the water and all that to drain out. But then it's like, okay, why hadn't anybody thought of, okay, we shouldn't have to invert this thing because of the number of, I guess, health risk or whatever the case may be. But
yes.
And the fact that you actually thought about that on your way to the hospital from having these burns on your feet is crazy.
Yeah, I've always been an idea person. So, you know, I've had many other ideas. It's just, you know, what happens on the majority, and you know this, what happens on the majority of products is you go to research it and it's there. Or you go to research it and it may not be on the market, but someone's already filed for, even if they're not selling the products, they've already filed and got IP rights on that technology. So there you are. And so it's very disappointing, but when you find that diamond in the rough,
you found it.
Even on your way to the ER, you're really happy.
Oh man, I would imagine that like the clouds are kind of parting ways and the sun is shining, even though you have burns on your feet at that point.
Yeah. Yeah, my feet wasn't the only thing hot in that truck that day. My brain was overeating. No, and that's interesting. And I think you brought up another good point as far as the whole patent side of things. I kind of tell people all the time, man, just because something is not commercially out there, that doesn't mean that somebody hasn't filed for patent protection on it and has. It's a ton of stuff out there that is protected, or maybe not even protected, but somebody tried to get protection on it, filed patent application, and they did or did not. But it's nonetheless public art or prior art to the point where you can no longer get a protection on it. So, you definitely brought up a good point with that. Let me ask you this, because so you have this ideal, and again, a lot of people, we kind of talked about, or what they say, if you want to go to the place in the world that has all these great ideals, just go to the graveyard, because a lot of people have these ideals, but they end up taking them to the grave and not acting on it. And obviously, your situation was totally different as it relates to the circumstances in which you came upon the ideal. But was there any moment that you said, okay, I'm not going to do it, it'll just remain an ideal and I'm not going to act on it? Or did you know, hey, if it's going to be the last thing, I'm going to bring this thing into, I guess, reality? Was that something that you kind of battled with, especially as you're going through it? Or it was like, no, I'm going to make sure I'm get this product, turn this ideal and essentially to an actual product and get it out there? I knew instantly. And I knew that as much as I shopped kitchen products throughout my life, I knew that the product wasn't, I was really confident it wasn't out there. But of course, like I said, I did my research.
Yep.
Never, ever one time, not on this product, did I ever think, you know what, I'll toss it over in a folder and I'll get to it later, because you never do. So
that's true.
This one, I said to myself, this is it. I mean, this is it. And so, like I said, on the way, they got, most people don't know what it is, but they got the Silvadine cream, got me wrapped up on the way back home. I'm at the dollar store, wrapped up feet, buying colanders because I knew what I was going to do.
So you actually did go to the dollar store on the way home. That was like a real thing then.
Absolutely. Bought 8 colanders.
Oh, that's
cutting them up, cutting the hole in the bottom. We used a hole saw and just drilled the hole in the bottom. Started cutting the doors off of other ones. Now my prototype, it had automotive springs and everything else on it. I'm not. We call it our hillbilly prototype. I still have it today. And that hillbilly prototype is the one that got slid across the table to the largest housewares manufacturer. There was 10, they're designers. I guess they would be engineers of some sort, but I know they were designers at this company that jaws just dropped. Like, are you kidding me right now?
As I was researching this thing, my jaw dropped. Like I did it. My mom is a great cook, and I think I'm gonna get her one of these things for Christmas because
you should.
Because I'm like, well, I'm not sure how she hasn't come across this thing.
Yeah,
because it just seems like so simple, but so like obviously powerful and useful. And I would imagine that their jaws dropped because as I was kind of learning more about it, I'm like, what?
Yeah, it was crazy. It's been a crazy, adventure. But I'll be honest with you, it's been a lot of fun. And not only, we have a rehab center here, and so usually about once a month I have to take 10 or 15 up there because people that have had strokes. People that have had arm surgery or weak in one arm or the other, arthritis, whatever the case might be. So I take them up there, and these people just love them because it goes from, especially a stroke victim, where they don't have the ability anymore to turn a colander over, but they do have the ability to put it right out in front of them and just pull those levers. And so it's so easy to use. It's so convenient. No more steamed up glasses. I mean, it's just, I love this product. Yeah. And honestly, I'll manufacture it the rest of my life just so I don't have to be without.
So, and I want to get to that because this is actually a unique story, I guess. But before we get into the whole manufacturing thing, how do you balance? Because I'm assuming, I know we were talking beforehand about the RV, you have the RV business. Were you doing that already beforehand, or were you doing something else before? You kind of came out with the Colander.
We've had the RV business for around 25 years ish. So I've had that. RV is what I know. It just is. Ask me anything about an RV, I can tell you. If you need some help, I got you. But so. That I knew. Okay. The process of going through licensing, because I did license it under the Farberware name, and then it was still under Farberware, but the name was changed to DFL for Design for Living for Bed Bath & Beyond. So the whole process of licensing a product, I spent months reading and learning and figuring out my way, but this was on another product I had. So Instead of just jumping out there into the fire, I did a ton of research. So when this one come to me, I was already somewhat educated on how to do my search and to do my research, how to search Google Patents, images, go to the USPTO, do my references. I knew all these things already.
Gotcha. So yeah, and maybe just kind of right before we talk about the licensing part with the RV, and the reason I'm bringing that up is because a lot of times people have, they just don't, they typically are doing something else. So like you said, you could tell someone everything they know about RVs, but they're not necessarily, you probably weren't necessarily an expert. You probably are now, but back then you probably weren't an expert on like kitchen products, things like that. Did you like say, okay, I'm going to do both? Because I would imagine that the RV business is taking up a lot of time at that point in time. Did you ever kind of consider, okay, do I kind of take a step back from the RV stuff and focus on this other stuff I have going on with the Colander and those products? Or did you say, no, I'm going to just do both? Because I think that's maybe helpful for the audience, because a lot of times you are going to be doing something, and obviously a lot of people don't just kind of quit the main thing that they're doing and going for business full time with the startup business. They kind of maybe do both for a period of time, and maybe they kind of go full time at some point into the business that they had a product on. Or sometimes it seems like you are just kind of writing it out with doing both of them? How did you kind of make sense of that to say, okay, I'm going to continuously do both of the RV as well as the modern chaos designs, and I'm not going to kind of take a step back from modern chaos designs and from the RV business to go full time with modern chaos designs? How was that kind of thought process?
For me, and I'll tell anybody this, and I push this all the time because I have a site called Inventing Wise. So I have people that contact me through that site, and I will tell people on a regular basis, number one, don't quit your day job. Sure. And, don't run out and buy a Porsche just because somebody offers you a licensing deal, because you ain't going to be able to pay them payments right away. So I never in the beginning, I knew I had learned enough that I knew to keep my focus. Oh. And so that's what a lot of people do, is they lose their focus and they get so engrossed in this product and they're about to be rich and, they just drop everything else. Oh. Not me. I kept my stability, which was our RV business, because we had had it for years. Yep. And I dedicated myself to do both businesses. And at whatever point I felt like it was maybe too overwhelming, I would have give up one.
Okay.
But the reality is, in the beginning, I licensed the product. So I didn't have a lot of heavy burden on me.
Yeah, for sure.
I licensed the product. I filed for the patent, got the copyright, trademark, did all the things right. And that's where people need to spend their money. And that's something that I always preach. Spend your money wisely, because keep your day job and spend your money wisely, because you're going to need, if you spend your money elsewhere on submission companies or people that are out there that'll swear to you that they've got you covered, they're going to get you this licensing deal, but they just need $15,000 up front. That $15,000 is going to pay that attorney that you need, that's going to give you the best advice, guide you in the best direction, whereas they're not, because you're going to pay them $15,000 up front and then sometimes a retainer fee of $3,000 a month.
And I never thought about that they were charging that much.
Oh, yes, sir. They charge that much. They charge you $3,000 a month and you're on a retainer. Now think about that in a financial aspect. $3,000 a month. They have 15 clients. Do you really think they're working on your product? Do you think that attorney's going to work on helping you get where you need to be?
It seems like they're making a lot of money nonetheless. So this is interesting. And this seems like, did you have a personal experience or a bad experience, or you were just hearing a lot of bad stories about this? Because I know I was checking out the inventingwise.com the website, and you have on your blogs, you have a couple blogs that's kind of dedicated to avoiding scams and things like that. And I guess that made me think, okay, maybe she had a bad experience, or she know a lot of people that had a bad experience with kind of people getting scammed, which again, unfortunately happens. And hey, you get scammed out of tens of thousands of dollars. I'm not sure where some people come from, but where I'm from, that's a big problem.
Yeah.
So how I guess where did that passion from kind of helping people avoid getting scammed come from?
Well, for me, I was scammed out of $1,000 from a submission company. Gotcha. $1,000, and I learned my lesson. Yep. And so when they come back to me and said, well, we can keep going forward on this. Now, this was on another product.
Okay.
Years before. This was on another product. When I got told, well, if you pay us $15,000 more, we can move to the next steps. And then $35,000 more, we can move to the next steps. And as I got into the industry, I realized that this was a huge problem.
Yep.
I've had people that contacted me that are $115,000 in debt to submission companies.
What?
But they don't have a patent
So what are they like? So cause I tell people all the time, and again, this is just, maybe I'm biased cause I'm a practitioner or a patent attorney, but I tell people all the time, I almost look at it as like having a house. And if you don't have, the house is not built on good foundation in terms of your IP being protected, it's not going to be a good thing trying to go forward and do all this other stuff, whether it's, maybe trying to get investors money or trying to get licensing deals and things like that. Cause all those other people, 9 times out of 10, going to ask, hey, what's your IP looking like? Is your IP protected? Do you have trademarks? Do you have copyrights? Do you have patents? So it seems like trying to do all that stuff before kind of protecting a foundational thing, which is the IP, again, from at least in my opinion, seems to kind of be going about things backwards.
It is absolutely backward. That is a big issue for me. And you'll notice on my website, I do push a lot about scams because I can't tell you over the 12, 13, 14 now years I've been doing this, I can't calculate a number in my head. I could try, but it would be in the millions that I have seen inventors put out to these companies and end up absolutely with nothing. They are right back. And not only do they put this money out, but these companies will finance it for you. So when you don't pay them, or someone like me tells you, stop, don't pay these people this kind of money, they come after you and they have the legal right to sue you, because guess what you did? You signed that contract because you didn't have that attorney telling you not to.
For sure. Now, this is interesting. I know you talked about licensing it to Lifetime Brands back in 2011. And it seems like, again, I've kind of talked to a number of people kind of doing these interviews, and it seems like that's kind of the holy grail, is everybody wants to get a licensing deal. Now, It seems like you had that, again, over a decade ago, and now today you are manufacturing it yourself. So I guess, what was the reason for that? Because it seems like, I guess, just the average person to say, okay, kind of, you made it. We all want to get a licensing deal. You got a licensing deal. Why go back to, okay, I'm going to decide to manufacture this thing myself, as opposed to try to continue on with the licensing deal?
I submitted the product on a Friday in November, I believe it was. I can't remember the exact date, but I submitted it to Lifetime Brands in November. And by, probably 2 weeks later, we were talking licensing deal.
Okay.
And at that point, the person I submitted it to, I had known through the inventing community for a while, so I fully trusted him.
Okay.
And at that point, he kind of advised me, the same as you just said earlier, you need to get all of your ducks in a row. In other words, file the patent. Let me just tell you, when people say the word bootstrap, most people don't understand it. But because this was back in 2008-ish, where the economy just took a downturn. And so our business was suffering really bad. And so financially, I wasn't in a great place to be at filing for patents and all of this stuff. So what I did, because I was very aggressive about getting this colander out there. I told you earlier, I knew I was going to get this colander out there. So I was very aggressive with that. So at that point, I decided, okay, I've read enough that I can write my own provisional.
Hey, sometimes you got to do it. Sometimes it ain't.
Wait, I did. But let me tell you, when you are dedicated enough that you will go through the length that I went through to get this done, you are dedicated to this. So I was dedicated. I went on the USPTO website, found the names of patent attorneys, and just started calling them, some that were local to me. And I just so happened upon one that was retired. He had only been retired about 3 or 4 months.
That was perfect for you.
It was perfect, because he told me, he said, if you'll write it, I'll proof it. and he said, I won't charge you anything. And he didn't. So I'm writing it. And when I'm done, because he told me, he said, I want you to read a book called Patent It Yourself by David Pressman. So I read the book. I don't advise this to everybody. I really do not. I mean, I'm just saying, if you're in a position where you have to, okay. But if not, get an attorney, because it's a risky move. You know that, and I know that. If
Absolutely.
you don't get all your wording right, it's a risky move. And I had an attorney going over everything I was writing.
Yep.
So just be careful. I'm not saying that it can't be done. I'm just saying, just be careful. But he went over everything, and in the end, he made 3 small changes, and they were able to convert my provisional right over into a utility. I did so well, but I will tell you guys, I was up till 2 or 3 a.m. in the morning, night after night after night after night, reading and reading, because I didn't want to send something back to him that he would reject. So,
Yep.
So I worked really hard, because of not only that, but I wanted to make him proud, because he was willing to do this for $0. So
absolutely.
I didn't want to just send him junk and him have to spend hours. I wanted to send him the best absolutely that I could. Yep. And like I say, he made 3 changes, but I was very fortunate to find that. It's not, and so with that being said, I did file my own provisional. And then I was advised upon licensing, when we started talking licensing, that I needed to convert it. So at that point, I knew that when claims got involved and all that, I needed an actual patent attorney.
Right.
So I found a good patent attorney. He and I worked out a good arrangement, because, again, I'm bootstrapping it. It was tough, but I knew that was something I had to do. And so there we go. I mean, by February 14th, I was signing a licensing deal and had my little happy IP rights file.
So then I guess was that experience, I guess, as expected? Did it, like, how was that, I guess, partnership between you and the licensor? Did that kind of work out the way you anticipated? Again, because everybody tries to get that mailbox money, those licensing deals, to kind of, so that they're not, I guess, too heavily involved or invested from a capital standpoint, and the licensor is essentially, taking care of all that, and then they're just giving them, the mailbox money, the royalty payment. Did that kind of work out as expected, or was it like, okay, this is maybe not what it's cracked up to be? How was that kind of over time?
Actually, it was really, the first year, you're going through, every curveball that you can get hit with. You're going through, and that doesn't matter whether you're manufacturing it yourself, licensing or whatever. You're manufacturing a new product, so you're going to hit, bumps in the road. The plastics we were using wasn't quite strong enough for the dishwasher, so little things like that.
Okay.
Little things like the handles on there stuck out too far, so they weren't stackable for shipping. So it was taking up way more space. So that's when we decided to slim them down so that they were very stackable. Things happen like that, in the first year. But after that, I have to say it was pretty good. I mean, I don't remember what it was in year 2 and 3, but it sold right at $1 million, I think. So the it was good. I mean, I'm not going to say it wasn't good, but after a few years, they're a large company, and I'll never say a bad word about Lifetime Brands, because the truth is we had a great working relationship. They were extremely good to me, and they did an amazing job with my product.
Nice.
And every advancement that was made, anything that was done to this colander, it all came to me. So I have nothing bad to say about them. However, they're a very large company. And so after a few years, I felt like that the trapdoor colander was maybe getting a little stale. They had newer products coming in.
I got you.
And so they're pushing these newer products. And I just kind of felt like maybe mine was getting kind of sat back on the burner a little bit.
I got you. Yep.
And so I hired an attorney at that point, because I had met my first 5-year contract that I had with them. It was a 5-year contract. So I'd met my 5-year contract, and then they had the right to renew for 5 more years to their discretion. But I went ahead and hired an attorney. It wasn't a legal battle.
Yeah.
I hired an attorney to get with their legal counsel and see if they were willing to, at that point, assign the rights back over to me, because we had a couple of little glitches along the way, and they knew that there was a couple of things I wasn't really happy with. And to be honest with you, and they also understood that I was at a point where, because royalties are small, and I'm not going to say what my royalties were with them. I don't feel like that's a correct thing to do. The average royalty is 3 to 5-ish, and I got a pretty good royalty with them. So I have no complaints there, but I felt like I was ready to do more than just that small royalty. And I had done enough research and learning about the industry that I felt really confident about it. So my attorney and their legal team got together, and within days they assigned it back over to me. We had an amazing working relationship. I had no issues with that at all. And so, and that's where the fun began.
So then, before we get into the fun of you manufacturing this thing with the whole American Big Deal, was that something that you did before the royalty, or was it after the royalty, or was it something that you did after you got it assigned back?
After. And one of the things I'll tell you, one of the reasons why that I decided to, one of the reasons that I decided to end the deal with Lifetime Brands is Shark Tank actually reached out to me, which is a very odd thing. They don't normally reach out to you. You reach out to them.
Gotcha.
And so they actually reached out to me when it was under licensing. And guess what? I couldn't do the deal because it was assigned to someone else. So that was one of the heartbreaks of my life, is that opportunity to be on Shark Tank. And
that would have catapulted the business if you were doing it on your own at that point, obviously.
Yes. And so that was a tough one for me. I mean, it took me a while to get over that, because I knew that when I reached out to them and was told that I couldn't, that was a moment for me where I thought, this is my product. Why can't I? But it's not. You must find it over to someone else.
The ownership is important. Who owns it? And they have to say so.
Absolutely. And so that was one of the deciding factors for me on going from licensing to manufacturing. And I was already in the beginning stages of manufacturing right during COVID day. Right. Did COVID, I decided to manufacture a product. Are you kidding me? And so it wasn't long after that, I had a friend of mine that is from Shark Tank. She was on Shark Tank. She was actually on the very first one, Tiffany Crummins. You probably know who she is. Everybody does.
I interviewed Lisa Lloyd, who was on there a couple of times, but I think she was on season 1 as well. Did a deal with Damon John. But I think Tiffany, she sounds familiar as well.
Tiffany did the deal with Barbara. So
okay, yep.
On the very first one. And so she reached out to me when she was my encouragement actually to manufacture this thing. She kept telling me, you got this. You are educated enough now that you've got this. You can do this. Because I was like, oh man, I'm stepping into waters that I've never been in before. And so she's like, you got this. Well, just a few weeks after I really started on my journey of manufacturing, she contacted me and said, I've got this great deal for you. There's this show. It's America's Big Deal, and you've got the perfect product for it. And so I submitted, and they chose the product very rapidly. As a matter of fact, Joy Mangano is the one. It was her, and it was her. She was one of the main. It was her and Scott Evans that hosted the show, and so she just wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, honestly, because I was like, I don't know if I can get product here quick enough. I mean, we're in COVID, shipping, freight. Oh my, oh man.
So is that show, was it similar to the Shark as far as you trying to get a deal with one of the I don't want to say sharks, but were you trying to get a deal, or were they just pretty much helping you promote and get funding for it?
You could get a deal. They had Lowe's, Macy's, and they had the buyers from Lowe's, Macy's, and which they also had Joy Mangano on there, which was QVC. She was the one doing the buyer for QVC.
Yep.
So you had 3 on there that you had the opportunity of getting a deal with at the end of the show. You had to pitch it live. I'd never been on TV before.
Welcome to the bright lights, the big time.
Yeah, it was crazy. I've struggled with anxiety my whole life. So stepping out on a stage, a lot of people don't know, a lot of people do know, because I made it very obvious when I was on the show, but I was agoraphobic for 8 years. So I had a really hard time leaving my house. And so this journey really, it's really been great for me. It really has. And so, just like Joy said, if you're going to leave your house, this is the place you want to be. In less than 30 minutes, I was the 3rd or 4th one out. I think it was the 3rd. No, I might have been the 4th one out. But in just the little 15 minutes we were on there, I sold, I don't know, $47,000 worth of product in just those little few minutes there. Yeah. So I didn't get first place because the guy that came out first, it was kind of unfortunate the way the show went, but it was still a good show and it was a great experience. So don't get me wrong. But the person that came out first had the whole hour. So I come out 3rd, so I only had just a few minutes.
Yeah, for sure.
My sales were doing great, and I sold more, I think, than anyone else. The problem was the show had ended by the time those sales generated. So it worked out. It's fine. It never bothered me. I wasn't there I didn't want first place, second place. It didn't bother me. What I was there for was the exposure and, to get my hands on Joy Mangano. So, but all in all, I will be honest with anyone, that mailbox money is a whole lot easier than that manufacturing.
Hey, now, do you think? No, I guess, and I did ask you this. It's like a 2-part question. The first part: do you think that what was the company name? Lifetime Brands would have renewed it if you maybe didn't try to kind of get it back?
They did. It was already renewed.
Oh, so you tried to get out of it once they renewed it. Okay, and then the second thing is, knowing that what you know now, do you think that you would have? Do you think you probably should have just let them deal with it, or are you okay? Look, I'm glad I'm manufacturing it, and obviously it's kind of ups and downs with that, but I guess you're happy where you stand at right now.
I am so proud of myself. It sounds crazy, but I am so proud of myself because not only had I licensed the product to the largest housewares company in the U.S. and beyond, but I have also successfully manufactured a product. So I don't regret any of it, not a minute of it, because this will forever be with me, and this is not my last product. I'm actually working on another one now. I wish I could talk about it, but I just can't.
We'll have to get you back once it's out so that you can talk about it and bring that to the world, because I'm interested in hearing what that is.
You will not believe. I got 2nd and 3rd degree burns on my hands with another product, so my whole hand was burned. So there you go. It's another one. It's a really good one. So I'm hoping this goes. I am working on licensing this one. I don't know that I want to manufacture again right now. We have an extremely busy RV business, and the Colander, it keeps me pretty busy. So the truth is, I don't know that I will manufacture another.
Okay.
But I am so proud I did this one.
Yeah, no, pretty much like good experience. So then I always say, as a patent attorney, telling clients, prospective clients, your client, I mean, your product is not popping until it's been knocked off, because typically they only knock off products that's selling and that's doing well in the marketplace. So, and from my experience, you've recently had, or from what I hear, you recently had some issues with having to try to kind of confront knockoffs, get them taken down. You talk a little bit about that and how IP played a big part in just being able to do that.
Absolutely. There were, because about once every couple of months, this is not the first time, but about once every couple of months, I Google it just to look for knockoffs. And when you find them, it's just heart-wrenching, even though, you know that because it's your product. And even though they're probably not going to sell a ton of them, the reality is it's just gut-wrenching. Because
and it's taking money out of your pocket for people who would have otherwise bought from you as well, I would imagine.
Absolutely. So it is just sickening. But the reality is, and I'll be honest with anybody out there, I believe in covering your bases, spending your money wisely, meaning get that patent attorney and make sure you get the copyrights and make sure you get your trademarks, because as hard as it is, and you know this as well as I do, even though you're a patent attorney, you know how difficult it is to fight for your IP rights. Yep. But if you've got those copyrights and your trademarks set in place, it is so much easier on Amazon and things like that to get those knockoffs out of the way.
And that's very true. And I think, and I guess this is how I would explain it, but maybe first, before talking about that, I think the U.S., and I do have faith that the government is going to make this right, where I think patents were, specifically patents, they were kind of more so made for big box retailers. So if you're selling on Walmart, if you're selling on maybe Costco, selling the product in the stores, it kind of provides a good remedy for that. But I don't think the laws have been updated to provide for the e-commerce situation, especially with Amazon and eBay and all these e-commerce platforms taking off. I don't think the laws really, they're antiquated. They don't really provide for that. So I'm hoping that the government, in Congress, or whoever kind of updates the patent laws to be able to kind of provide for that, to be able to get knockoffs taken down rather quickly. But again, to your point with the whole copyrights and the trademarks, it's cool because you have different level of protections, right? And I'm sure you know this as going through it. The copyright, to the extent that somebody is, that they're copying or just lifts your picture on your product and try to kind of use that same picture, that provides a good, your copyright provides a good, defense against that, in terms of being able to get a knockoff taken down for copyright infringement, especially if they're kind of lifting that thing verbatim. Or if it's, I think, substantially similar, is the I guess the phrase that the copyright in copyright law that they use. And then with the trademarks, again, similarly, if somebody is lifting your brand, your trademark term or your logo, and they try to sell a similar product under that same term or logo, or that's likelihood of confusion, that is a likelihood of confusion, then that kind of allows you to get that product taken down. And I think you were saying it on maybe another podcast that copyright and trademarks is going to be a lot easier to get it taken down compared to patents, and it's going to be a lot less expensive compared to patents. But then I do think that third category, patents, again, is going to be more expensive, unfortunately. And you have to jump through a lot more hoops. But I think that provides for a situation where somebody's selling your product, but they're not necessarily using your name, and they're maybe using some different images, and it still provides for you an avenue to be able to take that down. Would you, I guess, agree with that, or how do you look at that?
I do agree with that. And I'll be honest with you, I am very proud of my patent. I am very proud of it because, like we said at the beginning of the show, when you realize there's nothing out there like it, and then your patent kind of sells through the patenting process, and you realize that I own the rights to my product. And so there's no greater feeling. I will never tell anybody, don't seek a patent attorney. That's for sure. Because I know people who have 15 patents on, one product. They just keep adding to and,
making it better. And exactly. For sure.
Yes.
Yep.
I am all about that. But I am also in agreement with what you said earlier. The protection is for more of the big box retailers. It's really difficult for someone with a small company like me to be able to afford to fight to protect my IP rights. And so that's where I'm so grateful for the copyright and the trademarks, because they do help you out. I will never say don't file for a patent, because you want to own the rights. It's your product. You came up with that product and you worked hard for that product. You want to be the owner of those, of that technology. It belongs to you in a sense. So I'll never tell anybody don't file for one. But add those copyrights and trademarks.
Yep. And I think as part of an attorney job, and that's why so intellectual property is like the umbrella, and then under intellectual property, you have patents, trademarks, copyrights, trade secrets. But I think a good job or a good IP attorney is what I really like to call myself, more so than a patent attorney, even though I can practice patents, is, okay, let's try to protect all the IP that's there, whether it's a trademark, whether it's a copyright, whether it's patents, just because you never know which one you have to enforce at different stages. And it seems like, and I thought this was interesting, especially with selling it on an e-commerce platform such as eBay and Amazon, being able to have these different buckets that you can, kind of pull from your sword, so to speak, and kind of stop somebody from selling your product or an infringing product, based on, because it's copyright infringement, or because it's trademark infringement, or even because it's patent infringement. I think that's, I don't know, I just think that people should kind of look at the totality of getting all the IP protected that they can, because they never know which one is going to stick. And to the extent that you can do a used one that's less expensive and is going to quickly get the product taken down, that's going to be preferred over something that's maybe a little bit more expensive and takes a little longer to kind of go through the process to get the product taken down. So, I love the fact that you have used that, and I encourage all people to kind of do a similar thing where, hey, get all this IP, and then, you can choose which one you need to use based on the circumstances that presented themselves, right? that is presented.
Yes, to protect yourself and your product. You get everything that you can, and that's why I'm a hardcore, and I tell people this on a regular basis. Stop spending money on crazy stuff. Spend it on attorneys.
On the IP, and obviously I'm biased because I am an attorney, but I just seen it way too many times of people not protecting the IP, and then when they don't have it protected, now they're trying to come back and try to right the wrong, and it's kind of tough to do at that point, or maybe you can't do it at that point. And it's kind of almost like an unfortunate thing to have to see, or kind of break that bad news. And to the extent that you can, like you said, go out and just kind of do it right the first time around, and maybe it costs a little money and you have to get creative, but I think long term you're going to benefit more from it. At least I guess that's my opinion.
Oh, definitely. I agree with you 100%, because that's why I tell people, versus spending money on things that are not going to help you, spend it on making sure that you have your IP rights, so that you own, that technology. You don't want to just, you got to be careful out there, because there are sharks everywhere looking to, number one, it's hard enough to not have knockoffs when you have IP protection. So if you have nothing, you have nothing.
Yeah, it's pretty much, I guess it's so slim. Yeah, for sure. I 100% agree with that. I definitely 100% agree with that. Well, I guess I want to be respectful of your time. I know we're coming up on an hour. I guess I have like two final questions. One is a question. One is the last one is kind of more so how can people get in touch with you. But I guess for entrepreneurs, or not entrepreneurs, but people who maybe are looking to get into the entrepreneurship game, so aspiring entrepreneurs, what advice would you give them? So they're maybe kind of towing a line, or kind of doing this whole double dutch thing. Do I get into entrepreneurship? Do I not? Maybe I have an idea, or maybe I have a few ideas that I kind of want to maybe go forth with. What advice would you give to those aspiring entrepreneurs? And it seems like you've given advice to aspiring entrepreneurs a lot. So what advice would you give to them on whether or not they should, or something to consider when making that decision on whether or not to get into the entrepreneurship game with their product or their business or whatever the case may be?
There is so much that goes into that question. And so many people that I have frustrated, I have made angry at me by accident, because there's so much to that question. People, doing this is amazing, and it gives you a sense of pride that you'll never believe. Sure. But you just have to be wise, and that's why I named that inventing wise, because you just have to be wise. You have to be wise where you spend your money, be wise in what people tell you, because you can have an amazing product, and you know this. You're a patent attorney, so you know what I'm about to say. You can have an amazing idea, but if it's going to cost you 4 times the amount to manufacture it versus a product that is already out there selling for 1/3 of the cost, and yours doesn't really add that much benefit, no one's really gonna. So when someone tells you it's already out there, or there's a product really close, or it's going to cost you more to manufacture this, you're not going to get a return on your investment. People like me are not telling you that to upset you.
Right.
I'm telling you that because I've been in those shoes where I manufactured during COVID and thought, oh, crap, what am I going to do? Because my product just went from $4 to $7.07. What am I going to do? So my advice would always be to learn, educate yourself. Knowledge is power in this industry like you would not believe. Yep. So don't just take people's advice out there that say, I can do this for you, I can do that for you, you pay me this amount, I can do that. Because money, like I said, your money is well spent in protecting you and your product. But before you even do that, you need to learn how to research and make sure, or hire someone, that has the ability to do the research for you. Yep. So before you spend thousands on submission companies or whatever, reach out to someone who has the capabilities to make sure that product doesn't exist. Yep. It is an amazing, being an entrepreneur, especially being a female. For me, I live in a man's world. I run an RV industry, and I literally run the RV industry. So, and then stepping into an industry where there's not a ton of women inventors out there that could take it. I've taken it from beginning to end all by myself. So, you just have to be wise, and like I say, educate yourself. Utilize every avenue that you can, because we live in a day and time now where it's all at your fingertips. Take everything that you can get for free, learn, and then reach out for someone who, if you're going to spend your money, reach out to an attorney, because they're going to guide you. An attorney, they're not going to, I'm not going to say all attorneys are honest, but the majority of them, like I said earlier, when you and I were talking, get you a list of questions, even for your attorney. Don't be shy. Don't be embarrassed. You're talking to an attorney, but he's a human just like you. Get your questions together. Ask those questions. And if that attorney is willing to answer all those questions for you and you feel comfortable, go with it.
Absolutely. No, and I was going to say, I definitely agree with that, especially with the attorney perspective. You should leave out of that room understanding kind of a lot more what's going on, as opposed to just letting the attorney kind of talk circles around you, or kind of talking away that, okay, it sounds fancy, but you don't really understand it. You should definitely be kind of comprehending and understanding the things that he's telling you, to the point where it's like, okay, clear the path forward and kind of what you need to do and what you guys are going to do. And yeah, I definitely think that, and I love the inventing wise. That's pretty sweet. I guess I appreciate it more having talked through this your journey with you, and why you kind of named it that. And yeah, you're definitely you're I would say you're a one of one or one of a kind in terms of, like you said, with the RV industry, how that's kind of typically ran and being able to kind of break into that and doing what you're doing. But then also, and hopefully it's more particularly women that gets involved with the, being an inventor and being a panel owner or IP owner, because it should be more, from my perspective, and you being able to do both of them and do both at the same time is pretty amazing. And, so I definitely want to congratulate you on that, and kudos, because that's big. And I guess the last thing is, how can people get in touch with you? I know you're manufacturing the product now as opposed to having a licensing deal. How can people purchase the product? Can you talk about that a little bit? And we'll definitely put these different websites, whatever the case may be, in the description once the video or the interview comes out.
The website to order them is trapdoorcolander.com, or you can just search Trapdoor Colander on Amazon. They come in the aqua sky, red, and gray. Okay. So you can reach me at inventingwise.com. You can also reach me at inventingwise@gmail.com if you just want to shoot me an email. And for the most part, I do the best I can, but like you just said, I am manufacturing a product now. It used to be a little quicker that I could respond to people, but just know that my hands are pretty full. So it may take me a little bit to get back with you, but I always will get back with you.
No, yeah, and again, I reached out to her, and Lisa, she got back to me, so I can definitely attest to that for sure. So no, again, hopefully, audience, you got a chance to had your pen and your paper handy, because Lisa, she dropped a lot of jewels with this one. Definitely go not only purchase this thing. I'm gonna purchase this thing for my mom for Christmas. I thought hopefully I'm the favorite son after that. But go check out the website, ask her questions, and just kind of stay in touch. She's doing some amazing things. She has another product that I can't wait to hear about, and hopefully I can get her back on to talk about it. It seems like the burning product, she's solving the whole burning issue. I'm excited to talk about that one. And audience, we'll see you next time. Take care.